Hey Quinn, hey Selena. So sometimes it's just easier for me to get a ton of information out via video. So here you go. You get to see my lovely chimney fireplace as I sit on the couch. Okay, so processing your guys' pros and cons for sales. You're right, for the house, roughly 400, probably a touch more. I think is reasonable to hope. Of course, you can never guarantee. But places with just one bathroom are selling pretty solidly at 400, give or take, depending on niceness. So I think yours with the extra half bathroom and a little bit more square footage. Again, it's not a huge house, but you could maybe think about 410, 415 if it's in pristine condition after the tenant, 420. So those are all details if you decide to sell, but just so you know the numbers you're working with. Great that you lived there for 5 years. That doesn't matter so much as the capital gains rule is that you have to have lived there for at least 2 of the last 5 years. Talk to your tax person. So the question is then, how long have you guys been gone if you sell? So as to whether or not you should sell, I would say it's more, what do you want to do with the money, i.e. the equity that you have in the house. If you guys need that money or want that money, you sell right now, all signs point to the fact that you would not owe any capital gains, because marrieds have an exempt up to $500K and you guys are nowhere close to that. And since you, I believe, have lived in it for at least 2 of the last 5 years, you're good. Talk to the tax person to confirm all of that. So if you got this chunk of money sitting in the house, essentially, do you want to do something with it? Do you want, you guys are looking at roughly 170-ish of just profit. Do you guys want to buy something else, maybe closer to where you're at? Do you want to renovate your guys' house completely, go on the world's largest vacation? Or if you don't need the money for anything, other thing that I think sometimes happens to people, especially long distance landlords, they just become really tired of being landlords. Sometimes it depends on how your property management company is doing. Sometimes it just depends on which things stress you out at this phase of life, and getting a phone call from Washington and having to deal with your house is, when you have small children, it's more stressful than when you're 50 and nearing retirement. So again, stage of life, I'm not a person that thinks there's a wrong answer. I just want people to think through the pros and cons of what decision they want to make. So that's all the pros of selling, is you could do other things with that money. But you can also just leave the money in the house as an investment. Can I perfectly predict how housing is going to go over the next 5 years? No. But history tells us that housing's sadly going to keep going up. And I say sadly, not for you. Sadly for you and I who own a house, it's great. Sadly because the affordability and not enough houses is a real thing. And I just feel so bad for the people that's out of reach for. But for you guys, it's good. It's not as high of a return on the investment than, say, if you took that money out and put it in the stock market or somewhere else. I mean, the housing market is usually pretty reliable, of 4 to 7% increase per year. The couple years that you've owned it has been some of the most substantial increase in history. So yay, you timed the market right. For once, we all timed the market right. If you want to just leave it growing and you can stomach the cost of management and stomach the emotions of management, and stomach, there is always some risk to having any investment, but in this case, tenants. And don't forget, you will have to do maintenance on your home. I don't care if you have the best tenants in the world. You will have to put some money into that house for maintenance. if you want that investment to keep going and to keep growing. So in that sense, you've got a very cheap investment. Like you said, your friend's saying you have an amazing mortgage. That is cheap. So your expenses are low on that house and your income on it, like you're getting a cash flow each month. That's awesome. So there's no reason to sell, except that once you pass that timeline, it's truly an investment property. It's no longer a residential property. It's truly an investment property, and we all know that the tax man comes for investments. So do I think it's worth selling just to avoid the tax man? Me personally, no. Like, if that's just. Now, if it's avoid the tax man and we want to shift this money from house to a different house, or house to our 401k, or house to remodel our current home's kitchen. Like, if you want the money for something else, then it's a decent market. Those lower end homes are great. They will sell. The biggest thing is just there is going to be a gap of timing. If you decide you want to sell from the tenant gets out to when it's finally ready for the market. This kind of market, you absolutely want the house as in best condition as possible, meaning you're not going to have a tenant paying that mortgage, so you got to be prepared for that. And then two, yes, or the tenant should, and the property management should have the place perfectly clean. But do we need to paint the walls? Has it been long enough? Do we need to scrub the gutters extra? These things, there's going to be some cost. You want it pristine, I promise, for the sale. Now, if you were like, Amy, we don't have money, we don't have the ability to make it pristine, can it still sell? The answer is yes. We just can't be as aggressive on pricing. You don't get as much bang for your buck that way. But when it's pristine, even if it means $500 worth of scrubbing the gutters on the outside because moss has been growing on them, I promise it's worth it. Like, to make the house shiny and get a buyer in there that goes, ooh, ah. So that's a whole bunch of jumbled thoughts. It was easier to get out on video than to try to type that all out. I hope you get what I'm saying. I think if you guys have additional reasons to sell, by all means, it's a good time in the market overall. It's not a crazy runaway market. Sellers do have to be prepared that negotiations will happen. That's going to take 20, 30 days to find a buyer. That you do need to have the house in good condition if you decide to sell. You can't get away with the things that sellers were able to get away with 3 years ago. But I'm a fan of building real estate empires, and empire is dramatic. I like to be dramatic. So if you are enjoying the landlord, or it's at least not too much of a burden, you like that income that you get monthly, you've got some cheap expenses right now because you have that mortgage so cheap. Maybe you have, I don't know if you have good tenants. We never know what the future tenants look like. It is very difficult. Like, you do need to decide between tenants. It's Washington law is kind of hard to mess with, tenants once they're in there. But you've got a good thing going. I do think it's kind of one of the sweet spots of the rental market where you can get some pretty decent dollar for a small amount of house. So if you're content and don't have a reason to sell, keep it. Just keep plugging along. But if you have something else you want that money to go towards, now's a good time because of the market, as well as because you won't pay any capital gains. I think check with your tax person. So there's my 2 cents. I hope you guys are well. Ask follow-on questions. We can do a phone appointment. We could do the video chat thing, whatever works. Thanks, guys. Bye.